So today we're going to talk about hierarchy diagrams, and we're going to look at day 49 and day 50's pages. We're going to start with day 49 here, and there's quite a few different names of shapes throughout here. And just like we've talked about with smaller hierarchy diagrams, we're going to look for the kind of the biggest overarching category of shape that we have. Okay, so when I scan, kind of the largest overarching category of shapes I see would be the polygon, because remember, a polygon has three sides or more. Sides have to be straight, and a polygon also has it's closed, a closed figure. And if I look at all of these, with the exception of this one, is a little different. The circle's different. When I look at all of these, they all fit those descriptions for the most part. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just kind of write some things on each card that I know to be true about those particular shapes. I know an acute triangle has, and I'm trying to do this so that you guys can see and that my shadow is not overpowering what it is we need to see in the video. But an acute triangle has three sides, and it has acute angles. Okay, I know a circle is closed, but it has curved shape. It's it's circular all the way around, which would mean it is basically, it's not a polygon. Again, because a polygon has to have the straight sides, or the sides that are straight. Okay. I know that a equilateral triangle has three sides, and it has all sides equal. Okay. I know a hexagon has 6 sides, because hex means 6, that prefix there. I know an isosceles triangle has 3 sides, and it has 2 sides congruent, or the same length. Okay. Now, we talked about a kite yesterday when we did our quadrilateral sort. So that's one thing I could say. I know this is a quadrilateral. I know that it has 2 sets of congruent sides. The top is congruent, and the bottom is congruent. And I know that it has no parallel sides. Okay, because the top and bottom sides cannot be parallel, because eventually they will run into each other. I know an obtuse triangle has 3 sides, and it has angles that are greater than 90 degrees. Okay. I know a parallelogram is a quadrilateral, and I know opposite sides are parallel. I'm running out of room here. Opposite sides, and I'm going to do this symbol for parallel. Opposite sides are parallel for the parallelogram. All right. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to write what you know, the attributes or the qualities of the remainder of the shapes here listed. You have a pentagon, quadrilateral, rectangle, regular pentagon. Remember, regular indicates that all sides are congruent. Anytime you have a regular anything, it could be a regular rhombus, or a regular parallelogram, or a regular hexagon. It means that all the sides are congruent when you use that word regular with any name of any polygon. But I want you to pause the video, and I want you to go through, and I want you to list the properties of the remainder of these shapes: the pentagon, the quadrilateral, the rectangle, the rhombus, the right triangle, the scalene triangle, the square, the trapezoid, and the triangle here. And once you've done that, you can unpause the video and we're going to create a hierarchy diagram based on those different attributes that we've talked about to figure out where they fit. Okay? So pause the video and take care and go ahead and fill in those attributes. All right? So now we're going to look at our diagram. We're going to do a hierarchy tree. And we're going to start with our top topic, which is, or our largest idea here, which was polygon. That's the one we identified first. And we said most everything fits inside the category of a polygon, or fits under the category of a polygon. And I tell you what, for this activity, it may be easier just to do the boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and make a box, a big box on my paper. And I'm going to label inside of there polygon because that's my biggest category, my largest category. Okay. And then I'm going to look at my other names. And I know that I have quite a few different kinds of triangles. So that might be, and I have the word triangle. So that might be another box within my polygon box. It's the word triangle. So that tells me a triangle is a type of polygon. Okay. And now I'm going to think I can check off on my cards. If I'm looking at my cards here, I can check off triangle and I can check off polygon because I've used those two terms. Now I'm going to think what needs to go inside my triangle box and how I can put that inside my triangle box. If I think about it, I know that there are many different kinds of triangles. So I could just list them all in their own bubbles for the types of triangles. And I know that sometimes triangles overlap. It can be both a right triangle and an isosceles triangle, or a right triangle and a scalene triangle. But for the purposes of this diagram, I'm going to do each one in its own little box inside the triangle box. So I have an acute triangle. I have a obtuse triangle. I have a right triangle. And when I think about that, all of those triangles are mentioned, or they're named based on their the size of their angles. Okay, so I'm going to mark those off on my sheet here. I can mark off acute, I can mark off obtuse, and I can mark off right triangle because I've used those. Now my other three types of triangles are my equilateral triangle, I have my scalene triangle, and then I have my, let's see, isosceles triangle. And I'm not doing so good at fitting my words in my boxes. I made them too small. Okay, so I'm going to mark off isosceles, I'm going to mark off scalene, and I'm going to mark off equilateral triangle because I used all those words. All right, kind of looking at where I should go next. My next big category that I see after triangle, shape with 3 sides, I see quadrilateral, a shape with 4 sides. So I'm going to make another box here within my polygon box. Okay. And I'm going to label this quadrilateral because that's my next big category that I have, which is a shape with 4 sides. So I'm going to mark quadrilateral off of my list. When I think about the different kind of quadrilaterals I see here, I know that a rectangle is a quadrilateral. I know that a parallelogram is a quadrilateral. I know a rhombus is a quadrilateral. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral, and a square. So I know that all of those terms have to fit somewhere in my quadrilateral box. Where? We've got to figure out, but somewhere. I know that a trapezoid has its own unique properties because it only has one set of congruent sides. It only has one pair of parallel sides. So I'm going to put a trapezoid over here by itself because it's a unique shape all in itself. Another unique quadrilateral that we have is a kite. because again, it doesn't have any parallel sides, and it has two sets of congruent sides, but no sets of parallel sides, because those two are kind of unique quadrilaterals all in themselves. Now I need to start thinking about my next few terms. So I can mark off trapezoid. I can mark off, oops, I didn't even circle this as a quadrilateral, but I can mark off kite. Now I need to think about rectangle, rhombus, square, parallelogram. Now a parallelogram has opposite sides that are parallel, and it has to be a quadrilateral. Well, what I know about a rectangle, rhombus, and a square, all of these shapes fit into that category. All of the rectangle, rhombus, and the square all have opposite sides that are parallel, and they all are considered quadrilaterals. So what I can do is create another box in here, label that with parallelogram, okay, and then create some smaller boxes to describe my rectangle, rhombus, and square. Well, I know that square is a special quadrilateral because it has all the same qualities as a rectangle, and it has all the same qualities that a rhombus has. Okay, so what I'm able to do now is kind of create my Venn diagram looking boxes. And one I can label as a rectangle, and one I can label as a rhombus, because that shows me a rectangle is a parallelogram and a rhombus is a parallelogram. And then something that has both of these, it can be a rectangle, it can be a rhombus, and it can be a parallelogram, is a square. And why can it be all those things? Because it has all the same properties as these things. If you look at the things that you wrote for rectangle, rhombus, and square, you'll see that square has everything the rhombus has and more. Square has everything the rectangle has and more. So that's why it can be considered those things as well. Okay, so I'm going to mark those off of my list. Now I'm left with a circle, a hexagon, a pentagon, and a regular pentagon. Well, I know a pentagon, regular pentagon, and hexagon, those can't be quadrilaterals, those can't be triangles, but they definitely are polygons because they're closed figures with 3 or more sides, and they have straight sides. So I've got to kind of figure out where to put those. So I'm going to make another box in my polygon section here, and I'm going to put hexagon in one of those because it's a 6-sided shape. Okay. And then in another little box over here, I'm going to put the word pentagon. And since I have regular pentagon, that would be a type of pentagon, so I make a box here. Okay. Now, if I look at what I have left, I have pentagon, regular pentagon, hexagon I've used. I have circle left. Where can I put a circle? It's definitely not a triangle. It's not a type of quadrilateral. It's not a type of pentagon. It's not a kind of hexagon. Now the question is it a polygon? Well, no, we've already established it's not a polygon. So it goes in a box over here outside of my polygon box, all on its own because it's not considered a polygon. Okay, and we just created a hierarchy diagram using let's see, 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19 different shapes, okay? So that was, if you look at the definitions and you look at the terms and figure out where the placement is, it's not as difficult as it may seem when you first start, okay? The last page that we're going to look at is the examples and non-examples of two-dimensional figures. Okay, it lists the word for you, a polygon. It wants you to draw 3 examples of a polygon and 1 example of what would not be a polygon. Okay, here it wants you to draw 3 different trapezoids and 1 example of what would not be considered a trapezoid. So on and so forth. I want you to choose, or let's see how I want you to do this part. I want you to pick, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want you to pick at least 3 to complete. So you're going to pick 3 rows that you want to complete. You might pick polygon, rhombus, and right scalene triangle. You might pick parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus. But pick at least 3 rows that you want to complete. And then both of these pages are going to get glued into your math notebook. Okay? So you'll choose 3 rows, that at least 3. You could do more if you want to. But at least 3 rows you want to complete and glue both of these pages into your math notebook. The silliest thing for today is I actually did these math video notes at my house, so I hope you're able to see them because of the lighting. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.